Hey guitar fanatics, if you know your triad shapes but you struggle to turn them into real music, trust me, you're not alone. Many players learn the shapes but not how to use them. In this video, I'm giving you 3 powerful formulas for creating guitar licks with triads. And these hacks will instantly make your solos sound more musical and more connected to the chord changes. Not only that, but I'll show you how to add some other crucial notes and some phrasing to your triads to level up the emotional content of the licks you play. In short, watch this video, put the concepts to work, and you're going to sound way more polished and professional. I'm Charlie Long. I'm here to help you make sense of guitar soloing. So let's get right into it with triad soloing formula number 1, which is adding tension notes and phrasing to our triads. If you're watching this video, I'm making the assumption that you know something about triads already, but here's a really quick refresher if you need it. Here are the notes of the C major scale on one string to make this as easy as possible. To make a triad, we can start on any note in the scale, but let's start on the C to make it really easy. We can call that note the 1 or the root of the triad. Now, if we count over to the 3rd note from C, we land on E, and we call that the 3rd. And when we count over to the 5th note from C, we come to G, and we call that the 5th of C. This is why we say triads are made up of the 1, the 3, and the 5. Those intervals are relative to the root of the triad. We could start, for instance, on the F note. And the 3rd would be A, and the 5th would be C. Now with C and F triads in the key of C, notice that the 3rd is 4 frets above the root. C to E, and F to A. We call that a major 3rd, and it gives us a major triad. But if we start on D as the root, we're going to get F as our 3rd, and we're going to get A as the 5th. But notice the F note is only 3 frets above the D. We call that a minor 3rd, and it gives us a D minor triad. That's really all the theory you know to get the message from this lesson. The other assumption I'm making is that you already know some triad shapes, but if you don't, that's okay because I'll be putting up diagrams of all the shapes that we use in the examples. So what do I mean by adding tension notes? We just saw in our quick theory refresher, triads are 3-note chords. We can call the notes of a triad chord tones, and chord tone soloing is the concept of outlining the chords you're soloing over by making sure you play and emphasize those chord tones in the licks you play. Now the backing track we're going to be using today, we've got the chord C, A minor, B flat, and F. And here's what it sounds like to play the triads, just the chord tones, over those chords. Okay, all those notes sound correct, but to me they sound really boring. It's like putting vanilla flavored topping on vanilla ice cream. Those notes, those chord tones, are what we call consonant. To make things more interesting, we need to add some notes that aren't part of the chord, notes that we call dissonant. And that's going to create some musical and emotional tension. What you're going to discover is that if you add just 1 or 2 of the notes that are between the notes of the triads, your licks, even if they're short, they start to sound like little stories unfolding. Because we're alternating between notes that sound a little tense over the chords, and then we resolve that tension by going back to a chord tone. That tension and resolution is what we want in our guitar solos to draw the listener in and keep them there. It's like writing a plot twist into a story. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to use a similar triad shape on the E, B, and G strings for each chord. We've got the root on the E. Here's our C. We've got the 5th on the B, this is a G note at the 8th fret. And we've got the 3rd on the G string, this is an E. And for that C, here at the 8th position, we're going to use these non-chord or tension notes. We've got D, which is right above the C. A, which is at the 10th fret right above the G. And on the G string, we're going to play the D again and go up to E. The second thing we're going to do is add a little phrasing to spice up our lick. Let's slide from C to D and back, G to A and back, play the D, hammer onto E and pull off, and then slide back to E. And since it's the last note of the lick, I gave that some vibrato, and I'm also going to put a little vibrato on that A note. We could use that same pattern for our other 2 major chords. We've got B flat, same shape here at the 7th fret, and F up at the 13th fret. For A minor, we're going to play B to A, F to E, and then D, but we're going to move down to C. Let's hear what those licks sound like over our backing track. I think you're going to hear that tension and resolution and get a good idea of what we're going for. Here we go. Two quick things before we move on. If my videos are helping your playing and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do that for me. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're an advanced beginner or an intermediate guitar player and you're looking to develop a really solid foundation to become a legitimate lead guitar player, I've got a great new course that I just released called Lead Guitar 102. There's a link down in the description below, and as always, I really appreciate your support. Okay, now that we've got our feet wet, let's wade into the deeper part of the pool and go to triad soloing formula number 2, which is connecting triad shapes with our tension notes. Let's go back to that C triad at the 8th position. Here's our shape again. And on the same strings, there's also a C triad at the 12th position. Now, if we want to play a lick with a few more notes in it, let's find a way to get from C at the 8th fret up to that E at the 12th fret. And we've got a D note in the middle. And it sounds so natural moving up to the E or the major third from that D. Now there's another C triad at the 15th fret, and the note on the E string is a G. In between E and G, we've got F. Listen to how nice it sounds playing through what we call these different inversions and connecting them. Here's our first and second shapes, connected them with the D notes. Here's our second shape, connecting it to the third shape with the F note. It sounds nice just playing them straight like that. Let's hear that over the backing track, and then we're going to come back and spice it up with some phrasing. So the harmonic content is there. Our non-chord tones are adding some tension and some voice leading from inversion to inversion. And it's going to sound even better now that we're going to add phrasing. As an example, here's how we're going to play over each chord. Play the C triad at the 8th position. Play the D note, bend it up to E and release it. Play our C note again. Then jump up to the 13th fret. We're going to bend F to G and release the bend. And then we'll play our C triad at the 12th position with E, C, and G. Here's that whole lick slowly. That's the template, if you will, for this lick. And now we can apply it to A minor, B flat, and F. Let's have a listen to those licks over the track. I think that's a great sounding lick. We're covering a lot of ground on the fretboard. The bends sound really dramatic. And we've got multiple instances of tension notes resolving to chord tones. Let's try a slightly different variation where we play a descending lick. Let's start up at the 15th fret with the G note on the E string. This is over our C major chord. We're going to bend that G up to A and release it. And then play F, E, and C. That's the first half of the lick. Now we're going to bend E to F and release it. And then play C, G, and E down in the 8th position. We can mix things up. Let's play the A minor ascending lick that we played in the previous example. Over B flat, we'll do our descending lick. And then the ascending lick with the F. Let's play those over the backing track. I think it's going to sound really good. And this brings us to our third and last triad soloing formula. We're going to call this one wide interval skips to open up the fretboard. So far we've been playing these triads sequentially as they lay out on the fretboard, whether we're ascending or descending. And those sound really good, and we have done position shifts between the inversions to cover more ground on the neck. But you may have heard Eric Johnson and players influenced by him use this awesome sounding triad concept. Those are what we call open or spread triads. And the trick is playing one of the notes of the triads an octave higher than it's supposed to be. So here's a C open triad shape. I'm playing C, which is our root, skipping the third and playing G, which is the fifth, and then we play the third, but it's over on the B string an octave higher than normal. If we play what's called the first inversion, we'd play E, which is our third, C, which is the root, so we skipped over the fifth, and the fifth is G over on the B string. And the second inversion would be G, E, which is the fifth and third, and we'd play the C over on the B string. These shapes sound really awesome, very majestic sounding. And when we make that big skip over to the displaced note in the higher octave, it really opens up the fretboard and gives us choices for where we want to go from there. For instance, over the C chord, we play C, G, and E, and next we could play a tension note of F, and then E and C. And then finish things off over that C chord with a bluesy major pentatonic thing. We could jump up to A minor at the 12th fret and play A, E, and that displaced C, and end this lick with a nice little bluesy phrase. B flat is at the 13th position. We play B flat, F, and D over on the B string. And then we're going to do a little major scale thing up to the B flat on the high E string. Then over the F, let's start with the root form in the 8th position where we play F, C, we skipped over the A, A's on the B string, and then we're going to play the first inversion at the 12th position where we play A, F, and C. Now there's an F triad at the 13th fret. Let's play F and C on the E and B strings. We're going to bend the tension note G up to A, release that bend, and play the F again. Now we jump up to the F triad at the 17th position, bend B flat at the 18th fret up to C and release it, and play A and F. And that brings us back to the C chord, and there just happens to be a C major triad at the 17th fret of the B, G, and D strings. So we played E on the B string, and we're going to bend it up to F, release it, and then play C and G. Here's that whole passage played slowly. I love how you can really hear the chord changes in those licks even without the backing track. And now, let's hear those licks up to tempo over that track. I hope you got some great ideas on how to use triads to create killer guitar licks. It's all about taking those triad shapes, adding some tension notes and some phrasing, but then coming back to the chord tones to get those sweet resolutions. Now it's up to you to take the concepts and run with them. Keep in mind that today we use mostly the same shapes on just 3 strings. You can find triad shapes everywhere all over the guitar neck. And if you already know your shapes, well then go get busy coming up with licks using the concepts that we went through today. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And check out my course, Lead Guitar 102. I'll be seeing you soon. Take care.